Woo! MLB Strategy Show, Friday, July something, 24th. I have not done an intro for a show in a very long time. I have ceded those responsibilities to Laffy, but he is not here. But shit, my money is here. Adam Scherer in the house. We haven't done a show together in, I think we did one of the Sims shows, maybe.
We did one of the Sims shows like the first week or the second week, and that was the last time we did a show together.
Yeah, so it's been since early March, thanks to Rudy Gobert and the coronavirus. But we are back. We have a real slate today, not that generic 2-gamer we had to deal with yesterday. Well, 1.5-gamer. Special thanks to the Yankees and Nats for getting rained out in the middle of it. Really helpful for me. I pulled up the radar. It looked good. And then I woke up and that game didn't finish. Anything interesting for you for baseball yesterday?
No, not really. I mean, I made a little bit just because I was telling you before the show, I took a guess at the Giants lineup, got it completely wrong, had to swap Mookie Betts to Kike Hernandez in my single entry lineup, and that worked out really well. So, ran pretty good, but nothing crazy. Made, a couple $100.
Yeah, I was going to take a guess at that Giants lineup, and then I realized that I didn't know who half of the guys were or could be, and that didn't help at all. I didn't really have any leans when Heineman or whoever got put in there.
Yeah, in general, pigeonholing yourself into the $3,100 and the $2,000 value play from the team without a lineup can put you in a really bad spot.
It really can. It's not fun at all. At least it wasn't. So obviously late swaptimizer is very helpful from FC for DK. And luckily FanDuel is a little bit better for trying to do your swaps because it'll let you swap to guys that are more expensive and it'll fit if it can. DK, you can't do that. So I was able to get most of the Donovan Solano that wasn't in the lineup. I was able to get most of him out, but I had to do 10 manual swaps searching for that particular lineup with him. There's no method to sift through that stuff. I just had to keep scrolling back to the live screen, scroll back to the live screen. So luckily I handled all of that during the MMA.
FanDuel has late swap for baseball?
For games that haven't started yet, yeah.
Ah, shows how long it's been since I've played DFS baseball on FanDuel.
I'll tell you this much. I didn't remember that.
I know because they do for basketball now, right? But that's because of the... They did it before. For right,
baseball.
okay.
For baseball, it's up until the first pitch.
Okay.
Which worked out. I needed it, but I went to it yesterday thinking can I do this? And then I saw the little lock logo that swung open.
When you started talking about it, I vaguely remember it. And mostly because of what you said, I wish that DraftKings would implement the thing where you can just, if you have the salary, you can swap up. I feel like that's the one thing FanDuel does better than DraftKings.
The one thing. Well, the one thing that they did yesterday was give out an additional $270,000 in their main tournament, which was overlaid massively. That might honestly be the most I've ever seen. I can't think of a scenario where they came up so short. I think they brought in $670,000 on $1 million, which you don't see every day. They've got another big one out there with 1.1 million entries today. I'm going to keep a close eye on that. Hopefully we can get that sort of overlay again. But enough of this talk about FanDuel and DraftKings, because what really matters, SuperDraft, aka SuperDraft. That one's for Laffy, who's probably still asleep or on his 12th cigarette. SuperDraft's the place to be, man. Laffy says it a lot. He doesn't want to see these sites try to reinvent the wheel. We know what we have and it works really well. SuperDraft comes in with a multiplier, and I think it makes a big difference. It allows you to roster whoever you want at all times. If you want to go to a more stars heavy build, you can do that. You'll feel a lot better than having the number 8 hitter from the Giants, whoever that may be. We got guys today, Verlander is a 1x multiplier. If he scores 20 points, you get 20 points. But you can go to someone like Aaron Nola against the Marlins, massive upside from a strikeout perspective. He's a 1.35x multiplier. So his score could be monstrous. Or you can get down into the 2x guys, Ross Stripling, Eovaldi, Tommy Malone. You get twice their points if you roster them. You can do this for PGA, NASCAR, MMA, obviously baseball. Basketball is going to be back in a couple days. But what you should do, sign up using the promo code Awesemo10, AWESEMO10, and it's $10 on your first deposit of $10 or more, and $20 total on your first deposit of $100 or more. It's free money. You can't beat it. You can download the app in the App Store, or you can go to superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits and more winning. I don't know how we're going to pace out an 11 game show. I haven't tried to pace out anything with like structure in a really long time. Jordan, I hope you're ready. We might be here till 1 o'clock at the rate that I move through some of these shows.
If there's one thing I know about you, it's that you'll be efficient.
Not quite. I'm going to look down. We'll still be on Phillies Marlins. It's going to be 11:15. I can't wait, but I see no reason not to get this thing started. I don't have much to say about yesterday's slate. Any takeaways from opening day?
No. Lofty and I, when we were talking about Scherzer yesterday, I mentioned that it wasn't anything that you should act on, but that in his most recent exhibition game, it had been televised here and he was sitting at like 92 miles an hour. So I was expecting him to be his normal self, but it was nice to actually see him throwing, 95 miles an hour again.
Yeah. I, as someone who did not have a lot of Scherzer and had a lot of Cole and the Yankees, wanted to see him throwing 85 miles an hour when he came out there. It didn't quite work out that way.
By the way, did I call that or what? When he gave up that first inning home run, I DM'd you and was like, 15 strikeouts incoming now.
Yeah, in a stretch of 5 minutes, I said that I would do really disgusting things for Stanton to homer. He homers. I didn't have to do anything disgusting, thank God. And then your immediate response was like, good, get that out of the way and then get, double-digit strikeouts. And sure enough, Scherzer starts mowing down literally everybody and completely negates that home run. So it worked out pretty well for both of us in that regard. I wish he could have got 2 additional runs charged to him by the bullpen, but no luck.
It also blows my mind, completely semi-unrelated, but how are teams throwing Giancarlo Stanton fastballs still?
I have no idea. No idea. Why would you?
When I saw him,
they not seen
he probably hung a slider, and then I saw the replay, and it was just like, oh, he wasn't even trying.
No, you gotta. He just can't. Like, he's gonna hit it everywhere. Apparently, he's in like great shape now, which makes me wonder what was going on before.
When wasn't he in great shape? Talking about Stanton.
Yeah, they were talking about it on the broadcast. I guess he's lost some weight.
Huh. Actually, yeah, I did catch. I think part of that they were talking about Phil Nevin, third base coach, being in good shape now, and like the entire team just looking different.
Imagine even caring about what the third base coach looked like. Granted, Phil Nevin was good, number one legendary overall collegiate player.
Yeah, number 1 overall pick, and then kind of just hung around in the majors.
Yeah, and now he's a well-conditioned third base coach. Look at him now. All right, let's dive into this. First game, quite a doozy. Phillies and Marlins were in Philadelphia. Aaron Nola on the hill for Philly. Sandy Alcantara, yeah, I said it, going for Miami. Some things never change. Phillies with a 4.9 run implied total. Marlins 3.7. So Phillies are pretty sizable favorites here. I think we have to start with Nola, 9,900 on FanDuel, 9,100 on DK. We know what the upside is. This Marlins lineup looks a bit better than it did throughout most of 2019. How do you feel about Nola today?
I think it's a pretty good spot for him. Miami, they do have a bit more power than they did before adding Dickerson, adding Aguilar, and they still have Jonathan Villar at the top of the order, who can be a pain in the ass, but still not a great lineup. Only a 3.8 implied run total here, and I think most importantly, the salary on Nola at 9,100 on DraftKings especially is pretty inexpensive. It's a pretty loaded price tier in terms of pitchers that have upside. So I'm not saying that I think Nola is like the clear-cut guy that you have to go to there. And I think that given the Marlins implied run total, there's probably a good chance that he draws a little bit more ownership than some of the other pitchers around him that are in tougher matchups. But ignoring the ownership aspect and just looking at the matchup and the salary, I do think it's a good spot for Nola.
Yeah, I think given his salary, he's probably my favorite guy on DK. I am pretty heavy on Verlander too, but that's sort of like a different roster construction. But I think that barring any sort of really crazy ownership, Nola would be the guy that stands out for me. 9,900 on FanDuel. I kind of have the same sort of thought process there. I like targeting against the Marlins. Does concern me a little bit being in Philly, but the Marlins aren't really the power team I'm super worried about. So as long as Nola doesn't get too crazy in ownership, I'm thinking he'll end up being my most exposed pitcher. Any of your boys, Sandy?
I don't think so. I just don't think it's going to be necessary to go that route on this slate. You have 11 games. It's opening day for most of these teams. So pricing in general, probably not going to be that sharp. And then you're talking about a good Philadelphia offense, tons of power here, home run park. I would rather be going to the Philly hitters than going to Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah, I'm already looking at Joe Musgrove as a potential option, which makes me sick. Definitely baseball season when I know that he's a pay down option and he's going to get shelled.
Right. He was one when I did the podcast with EMAC last night. I said, if you land in that range, I think Musgrove would be the guy that I'd go to. I also don't think I'll need that range all that much.
I'm just so tired of rostering Joe Musgrove as like a $6,400 guy that disappoints me.
I'm almost kind of glad that his numbers last year weren't that good because I've always believed in Musgrove. And if he had like a more promising year, then I'm sure I would just be jamming in everything on him and then losing my money right away.
I hear you there. Let's start with Philly then from a bats perspective. You got to be crazy if you don't like the first 5 guys in this order at the very least. They're loaded. All 5 guys, McCutchen, Harper, Real Muto, Jay Bruce, Rhys Hoskins, all project with 200 or higher ISOs coming out of Steamer. That's just a ton of power in a ballpark that loves power. I can't imagine avoiding the top end of this Phillies order. It's great. The only concern is it's a little pricey on DK at the top, and it's 3 outfield spots plus a catcher and a first. But there's not a lot of variation in the top. Do you like anything at the bottom? Do you like Philly at all?
Yeah, I do. I think especially if you look at Alcantara's numbers, for one, this is a park downgrade for him going into Philadelphia. Good hitters park, power plays up. It's, I think, the one game on the slate that has some rain issues. So I'm assuming it's going to be humid. It's always humid in Maryland, Pennsylvania, all those states this time of year. So the ball should be flying. But on top of the park, you look at Alcantara, and last year his strikeout percentage against righties was about 5 percentage points higher than against lefties. His expected ISO to righties was over 50 points lower than against lefties. So clearly you're looking for left-handed power in particular, and that gives you Bryce Harper. But it also, you mentioned the guys at the top being priced up. It also gives you a couple of guys with good left-handed power that are inexpensive, with Jay Bruce at 3,900, with Didi Gregorius at 3,800. So maybe a tough team to stack in terms of 1 through 5 because they have expensive guys and the 3 outfield spots, like you said. But Gregorius being in there does give you the opportunity to kind of save some money and skip one of the guys in the 1 through 5 spots. So I think it is a difficult team to stack because you also potentially are going to have Gregorius and Gene Segura in the lineup, who are both shortstop eligible. But I think the left-handed power individually looks really good, and then the team as a whole looks good.
Yeah, Jay Bruce is going to be really popular on FanDuel today. 2,100 hitting 4th. You're not going to find many better matchups for him right out of the gate, especially with those 3 guys in front of him. I'm guessing he ends up picking up a lot of ownership, not just as a part of a Philly stack, but as a one-off outfield option, $100 more than the minimum. That's just simply too, it's not like he's good. He's average-ish, but monster power in a park that loves it. I like Philly. Do we have ownership yet?
I don't know.
We do not. So I can't even compare it. That's okay. We don't need to know who owned right now. Slate's in 10 hours or however long it is until 7 o'clock. I'm terrible at math. Terrible at math off the top of my head. I'm great at letting Excel do the math. Way better. Favorite Philly bat for DK today?
Without Price, obviously it's Harper. With Price, I would say Jay Bruce.
Okay. Yeah, Bruce for me because of Price on FanDuel. Honestly, it might just be Bruce regardless. I mean, obviously Bryce Harper if I can just roster anybody. God, I hate that I like some of the guys that are on the Phillies. I like McCutchen, Harper. I like all 5 of those first guys, in general. I just wish they weren't on the Philadelphia Phillies. Marlins bats. I'm used to just saying no and not caring all that much. Is this a spot you want to go to if Nola picks up ownership?
I don't think so. I mean, with 11 games, it's just going to be tough to really justify that. I think it's not like Miami is that inexpensive either. The guys that you would want to go to, VR, Anderson, Dickerson at the top, all over 4K. Aguilar and Cooper, I think, are pretty reasonably priced. It's not like this is a team where you can stack the Marlins and it lets you get like Verlander plus another really good pitcher and good one-offs or something. They're just not that inexpensive. And with all the good pitching options on this slate, with it being opening day for most of these teams, so many good pitchers going, even if Nola does get more ownership, even if he's one of the more popular pitchers, I don't anticipate it being like some outlandish ownership number that would really make me want to get to the Marlins, who I think are probably one of the lower probability stacks on the slate.
Well, let's find out. Ownership evidently just dropped per McCod in chat. I don't have that.
Neither do I.
I don't know how he does.
I want his subscription.
Yeah. To anybody that knows, yeah, can I subscribe to whatever McCod has? Well, I don't have that
last night.
What'd you say?
I said no wonder he won a tournament last night. I think
also true. Congrats to McCod. I saw the tweet earlier. Well, doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not expecting to get to the Marlins. I don't mind VR. Aguilar, probably my favorite guy on FanDuel, 2,300 as a first base option, but this just doesn't seem like a place that I'm going to be unless Nola picks up a bunch of ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it's even, I was just pulling up Nola's numbers Nola's stolen base numbers just to try and see if there was an angle there for VR, but only allowed 7 stolen bases last year. JT Realmuto is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. So, I think it's tough to even really justify like that angle.
Alrighty. Well, let's keep it moving, I guess. We will head to Cleveland. The Royals go into Cleveland against the Indians. I don't remember the way that I need to type this in. I believe I typed Indians first. Oh my God, it's been so long. I just don't remember how to do my job any longer. I don't remember how to work my spreadsheets. I don't remember what baseball is. It's not great taking 4 months off.
For the first 5 minutes of this show, I was refreshing FanGraphs because I couldn't figure out why it wasn't giving me the stats for the probable pitchers when I set it to 2020 stats.
Yeah, you're only going to get 4 dudes at that point. I cannot believe the Clayton Kershaw got scratched yesterday. That's one thing we probably should have touched on a little bit. That popped up while I was eating dinner. I was gone from the computer for 10 minutes and all of a sudden one of the starters wasn't playing. I was like, did he get COVID?
Right. That was my assumption, but apparently hurt his back lifting weights.
Amazing. I liked him yesterday too. Anyway, Indians and Royals. Indians 5.3 run implied total. Royals 3.6. That's a pretty big number, actually. Third biggest on the slate. Nope, fourth biggest on the slate. Didn't notice that Red Sox one hiding under the Royals for me. Shane Bieber, Danny Duffy. We'll start on the Bieber side. 10-2 on FanDuel, 10-3 on DraftKings. I'm a fan of Bieber. I'm a fan of getting him here against the Royals, but I think that price is a little too high. I would rather pay a little bit more for Verlander or then drop down for someone like Nola. Are you looking at Bieber today?
I think I'm going to end up in the same spot as you. I do really like Bieber. I obviously think he's really good. I think it's a good matchup. Kansas City, not a great offense. There are some strikeouts in the lineup, especially as you get towards the bottom and the hitters start to get weaker. The problem that I think I'll run into is, like you said, Verlander is more expensive, but not that much more expensive. Verlander's also in a great spot. And so I think I would rather, if I'm paying up, go there. But then what really will make it tough for me, I think, is that not only do you have Nola, who's $1,200 less expensive in obviously a good matchup, but you have so many pitchers in that 9K or less range where maybe their matchup isn't great, but they are high strikeout guys that can put up big games, whether it's Frankie Montas or Brandon Woodruff or some other guys that we'll get to. There's just so many of them in terms of number that the probability of Bieber beating all of them enough to justify the extra couple $1,000s is pretty low when you're talking about tournaments, which is obviously the only place where you're really considering Bieber, because in cash games, you're just going to Verlander.
Yeah, I assume he's not owned.
Right. That would be the biggest argument in his favor is he very easily could just be the highest scorer on the slate.
Yeah. On the other side, we've got Danny Duffy, 6,700 on FanDuel, 6,400 on DK. Obviously a pretty sizable underdog here against an Indians team that is solid, an above average lineup. They've got quite a bit of pop. don't think that I'm paying down at all for Duffy. Am I missing anything? Is that a guy that you were looking to pay down for?
No, I hate the spot for Duffy. He's someone that I roster sometimes, probably more than a lot of people. But looking at his numbers, he struggles to strike righties out, and he struggles to limit right-handed power. And that's a huge problem when you're probably going to have 9 right-handed hitters for the Indians, and you have a ton of right-handed power. 209 expected ISO to righties last year, only a 20% strikeout percentage for Duffy. So I think the 5.5 implied run total for Cleveland is justified here, and I would much rather be getting to their bats than to Duffy.
Speaking of those bats, and I agree with you completely, I would say Jose Ramirez, Lindor, Franmil Reyes all standing out. Totally forgot that the Indians picked up Reyes at the deadline last year. That feels like a lifetime ago. There's just so much power. And I know that I said this a ton last year. Nothing's changing here. They're incredibly easy to stack. Second base, third base, shortstop, first base, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the order. Anytime that you can pick off the individual bases, it's a little bit easier. Outfielders are, in theory, a dime a dozen. And then you can still get Reyes at 2,700 on FanDuel, 4,400 on DK. It's really hard not to like that first 5 for the Indians. 4 switch hitters also. Righty power, not as great in Cleveland, but they are projecting for 9 righties against Danny Duffy right now.
The only hitter in the Indians' projected lineup that has an ISO below 192 against left-handed pitching since the start of 2018 is Cesar Hernandez.
Really? Whew. That should be fun.
Yeah. Oscar Mercado comes in at 192. Everyone else higher than that.
Jose Ramirez being 5,200, Lindor being 5K. Is this going to be one of those spots where we pay up to be contrarian?
I think there's a good chance. I mean, Santana and Reyes being cheap kind of offsets that. Yeah. But I think that there's a pretty good chance, that a large percentage of the field just goes like Verlander, Nola, and can't quite get to Cleveland maybe.
They end up with a lot of Jordan Luplow, Oscar Mercado, and then, Roberto Perez and 2 of those guys.
Also, the Red Sox being inexpensive. Like if Michael Chavis is batting 5th for the Red Sox at 3K, optimizers are going to just spit out Red Sox stack after Red Sox stack.
Yeah, that is something you're definitely going to want to pay attention to. This is why you want to get a subscription to Awesemo.com. You can take a look at our top stacks tool, compare that to ownership. I have a sneaky suspicion that the odds of the Indians being the top stack will be higher than their aggregate ownership. Might be a nice spot to try to find some value. Do you have a favorite Indians bet?
Reyes.
Yeah, it's hard not to. Definitely for me on FanDuel, where he's 2,700. It's probably Lindor for me on DK, but I have no problem getting anything at the top of that Indians lineup, especially against Danny Duffy here. On the Royals side, a little bit more expensive than I thought they would be at the top end. Mondesi looks okay. Soler looks okay. But I think Bieber's really good as an actual pitcher. This is not a spot where I'm trying to grab Royals to target against Bieber. Do you have any stats on Bieber holding runners? Obviously, the Royals looking to move if they can.
I will in a second. As far as Bieber goes, I don't think that from a hitter standpoint, it's a spot that I need to get to. In general, you want to target Bieber with left-handed power. That's his biggest weakness. He strikes out a ton of lefties at 31%, but did allow a 201 expected ISO last year. But with this being an 11-game slate, you're going to find better home run spots than against Shane Bieber. And that's without even considering that the only left-handed bats in the lineup most likely for Kansas City are Mondesi, Gordon, and Cordero and Lopez. And none of those guys are, real true power hitters. So, I don't really see it. As far as stolen bases go, 7 stolen bases in 214 innings last year.
Okay.
Mondesi will run regardless.
Right. Yeah. It's not going to matter for him. Right. This doesn't seem like a spot where I'm going to have much, if any, of Kansas City, especially because I don't anticipate Shane Bieber to get any ownership. So what am I really gaining by grabbing a team that I don't think is very good? 3.6 run implied total is like one of the 4 lowest of the day. There's nothing here for me. I'm good. Nothing else in Indians Royals as far as I'm concerned.
Nope.
Perfect. Cubbies, here we go. Milwaukee Brewers going to Chicago. 4.5 run implied total for the Cubs, 4.1 for the Brewers. It's Kyle Hendricks against Brandon Woodruff. Hendricks 7,700 on FanDuel, 7,400 on DK. Woodruff 8,700 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DK. I kind of have some interest in Brandon Woodruff. I have no idea how many innings this dude is going to throw today. 7,700 on DraftKings, though, feels like a really nice price in the middle tier. I am going to go out on a limb and assume that neither of us have much interest in Kyle Hendricks, so I'm going to slide it over to Woodruff. But if you have Hendricks takes, feel free to hit me.
I have nothing on Hendricks. I mean, it's just there's so many high upside pitchers on this slate that I don't want to be going to the guy who needs to go, 8 innings and eight scoreless innings to really hit his ceiling. Not enough strikeouts for him. It's a good enough Brewers lineup that, I'm not really looking to Hendricks. I think it's an okay price point, but there's just so much upside around him, including Woodruff, who I'm with you. I think it's a tough spot against Chicago. Obviously, it's a talented Chicago offense, but you're talking about a pitcher in Woodruff who, for one, had the highest ground ball percentage on the slate last season. So when the ball's in play, he has a good chance at positive outcomes. But on top of that, really, really good strikeout numbers. He struck out about 29% of right-handed and left-handed hitters last year. Power basically non-existent to righties, not a ton of it from lefties either. And then looking at the Cubs lineup, Rizzo is really tough to strike out at about 14% against right-handed pitching last year. But other than that, most of these guys are between 22 and 25%. So there is some upside here for Woodruff. If he's getting ownership, I certainly wouldn't want to go there because I think the range of outcomes is really wide. I do think it's a tough matchup. But if people are going to go to other pitchers, I would expect Hendricks to be more popular than Woodruff, just because his median projection is probably a little bit higher. So in tournaments, I think that Woodruff is a good SP2 target.
How many innings do you think Woodruff is going to go here? Is it 5 his ceiling probably? I don't know if I should be paying too close attention to last year.
Yeah, I was going to say I need to look more at and see if any news comes out on him being limited.
Yeah. That's the tricky part for me. That's going to be something I pay attention to, looking for innings props or outs props as we get closer to lock. He's one of the few guys where I'm not entirely sure what his leash is going to look like. We do have a lot of nice Cubs bats on the opposite side, though. Plays up to righty power. I don't think that's terribly interesting for right now, but Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, Schwarber, I have no problem using that as a 4-person stack. They're all in the mid-4s in salary on DK. It's not an ideal spot against Woodruff, but we're talking about guys that sort of transcend spot. They are ultra-talented hitters at the top end of the Cubs order. Do you see yourself getting to Cubs stacks?
Probably not too much. I mean, like I said, Woodruff, a really good strikeout pitcher, a really good ground ball pitcher. Wind looks like it's not going to be a factor as far as improving hitters in this game. The Cubs aren't really favorably priced, so I don't think I'll really get to much there.
Okay. I could see myself using the top of their order for a lot of one-off opportunities. I can see $4,600 Baez showing up as just my shortstop in stacks where it doesn't work. That's about it, though. Brewers are pretty nice, at least on FanDuel. Low Kane, 2,700, potentially leading off. Ryan Braun, 2,800. Not a lefty matchup, but even still, there's a lot of power at the top of this Brewers lineup. There's a lot of power in the top 6 of this Brewers lineup, honestly. I think they're priced a little bit better on FanDuel than they are on DK. Are you targeting against Hendricks?
I don't think so. At least on DraftKings, like you said, the pricing is pretty much where it should be. Lorenzo Cain is cheap at the top of the order, but outfield's just going to be loaded on this slate with 11 games going. And it's just not someone that I really will be prioritizing. Christian Yelich would obviously be the priority, but he's incredibly expensive, especially relative to some other hitters on the slate. So I think it'll be pretty tough for me to prioritize anything from the Brewers.
Okay. Welcome back, Yelich, I guess. 4,400 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. That is a monster price tag. Lefty power, 93 park factor in Chicago. Not to say that Yelich can't hit a ball out as a lefty in Chicago, but this is probably not the spot. I don't get the sense that I'll have a ton here. I don't expect the pitchers to be all that owned. So I don't see a ton of leverage opportunities. That's all I've got here. It's probably a pretty good time for everybody to hit the like button. It looks like we've got 470 people in here and only 56 likes. That is not going to do it for me. Be sure to hit that thumbs up. We really appreciate it. It helps us out tremendously. And my gift to you is to let you know about the promo code Manfred. One word, that's for Laffy. MANFRED, like the commissioner of baseball. You can get your first month of Awesemo Plus's MLB package for 50% off when you use that promo code Manfred at checkout. 31 days of MLB projections, ownership, top stacks, more. It's only good through today, so you want to make sure that you get it now. It's $25. It's 50% off the normal rate. You just have to use the promo code Manfred when checking out. That is an MLB package. You'll have to add FC if that's a part of what you're looking for. That does not come with Fantasy Cruncher. So be aware when you're entering that promo code. FC will not be included with it. You'll need to add that as well. Promo code Manfred, baseball for 50% off. Appreciate you guys hitting that thumbs up. It looks a lot better when it's 3 digits. I mean, if you can somehow get another 530 people in here and get it up over 4 digits, I don't know what it looks like to get 1,000 likes, but it would probably be pretty fun. Maybe that could be a goal for everybody as we move through this season, or maybe not. Oh no, I don't know which game's next. Jordan, I'm trying to watch it through YouTube. Not your fault, totally my fault. Baltimore and Boston. Oh God,
we don't need to talk about Tommy Malone getting an opening day start for my favorite team.
No, we're definitely going to dive into this tire fire known as the Orioles. Red Sox, 5.9 run implied total. That is the highest on the slate. Orioles, 4.1. 67% chance to win for Boston. Nate Eovaldi going for the Red Sox. Tommy Malone, opening day starter for the Baltimore Orioles. Let me know now, how much Malone do you want at 5,600 on FanDuel or the flat minimum on DK? Can we have a conversation about how your opening day starter is the flat minimum?
I was joking about it with EMAC because during the break from sports when I had nothing to do, I've been doing a bunch of like Sporkle sports quizzes, and I always get stumped when it starts asking for like Orioles players from like 2000 to 2010 because they're all just nobodies. And as soon as I saw Malone starting, the first thing I thought was, well, in like 3 years when I have to answer an Orioles like trivia question, I will have no idea that he even pitched for them. But yeah, like it's obviously it's because Means is injured.
Yeah,
but not,
which doesn't really say a lot either.
Means is at least like an average pitcher. Like he shouldn't be an opening day starter.
Right. He's misplaced pitching today one way or the other, but it's better than
like
this.
John Means is at least a major league pitcher.
Yeah.
Tommy Malone is not, and I honestly do not know who the other 4 starters on the Orioles are.
He'll be if baseball gets shut down for Corona, I think Tommy Malone will be like the opening day starter for the Wyverns or one of those random KBO teams that I don't know off the top of my head. There's no chance you're playing him even at 4K, right?
Right. Yeah, there's no.
How high would Boston's ownership have to be for it to be even feasible for you?
No.
Fair enough. Any Eovaldi? I don't really see much here, but it is kind of appealing.
It's kind of appealing because of the matchup and the price tag. He's another one where I guess he kind of falls into that Joe Musgrove category where if I do need to go that cheap, it is a good matchup against the Orioles, and he does throw hard. He does have a swing and miss pitch that he doesn't throw nearly enough. So there's at least, a path for him. He has a 23% strikeout percentage last year against both sides of the plate. Gave up a ton of power to lefties. Fortunately, outside of Santander and then whatever you want to call, whatever you think of Chris Davis and guys like Rio Ruiz, there's not left-handed power in this lineup. So I think it is a good spot for Eovaldi. I think that he's perfectly fine. I'm not going to be upset if I get to some of him, but I also don't think that he ends up being, one of my highest owned pitchers.
Okay. So I have Steamer's projections in my sheet. Only one hitter for the Orioles in my projected lineup projects to have a Steamer weighted runs created plus north of 100. Can you guess who that is?
I didn't hear the question. I was reading Alex's compliments to me on Twitter.
Of course you were. Only one hitter in the Orioles projected lineup has a weighted runs created plus north of 100. Do you know who that is? This is
Santander.
Steamer projections.
Santander?
No.
Hayes?
No.
Nunez?
Oh, no. Now the joke's not as funny anymore because I don't need you to name the other 8, although that could be really funny. Number 9 hitter, DJ Stewart.
Really?
How often do you think the best statistical hitter hits 9th?
I want to know how he's projected higher than Hayes and Santander.
I don't know. 103 for DJ Stewart, Hayes 95, Santander 96, Nunez 98. So, they're all in like the same genre, more or less, but it does stand out. You don't see.
Oh, wow. Santander was only 9. He only had a 92 WRC plus against righties last year. I thought he was better.
All right. So let's talk Red Sox bats because I can only imagine these guys are going to be mildly popular today. Don't get the sense that the highest implied total in a matchup against Tommy Milone is going to be putting anybody anywhere else. Is this one of the best stacks of the day?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think that I don't see how it's not the highest owned stack, which on an 11-game slate, obviously there's going to be reason to go to other teams and tournaments. But I expect, you mentioned that like in the top stack tool, you expected the Indians to be under-owned. I don't really expect the Red Sox to be over-owned. I expect it to be one of those situations where it's like they're the clear top stack and they're getting a ton of ownership. So it's not that they're over-owned. It's just that you're still competing with 20% of the field if you go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's obviously going to be really popular. One thing I do like, I talked about it with EMAC, is that part of the reason the ownership will be so high is because of Michael Chavis at 3K, assuming that he's sitting in the middle of the order. I think he's a great play. Like, if you're not playing him in cash, I would say that you're insane. Obviously, the caveat is that it's 10:30 in the morning and I haven't made a cash lineup, but yeah. I don't really see how.
And he might just not play too. Who the hell knows?
Right. But when you look at the lineup, you have Benintendi leading off at 3,800 in a lefty-lefty matchup. You have Rafael Devers hitting third at 5,400 in the lefty-lefty matchup. I think there's a really good chance that a lot of Red Sox stacks skip Devers because he's expensive and facing a lefty. But Milone last year, he struck out 26% of lefties, which obviously is good, but gave up a ton of power. Still, just wasn't a good pitcher against them. And Devers obviously has a ton of power. He has the upside of facing a really bad Baltimore bullpen. If people are going to just skip Devers, that they can go with the cheaper guys but still afford Martinez and Bogarts, then I think getting Devers in your stacks is a really good way to approach the Red Sox here.
Yeah, the $5,400 price tag on Devers is going to really change the way that crunches come out for Boston. You can't avoid these guys. They are going to be highly, highly chalky. Paying attention to if they are overly chalky will be a key. But I can't imagine not wanting to target some of these guys at the top of the lineup against Tommy Milone. Does feel weird to not see Mookie Betts' name there. I'm not going to lie. Something feels off. I feel like I didn't load something correctly. Who is your favorite Red Sox bat?
Factoring in everything, I mean, so Chavis in terms of value, Devers in terms of where I think ownership comes in and who I want to get to. Okay. JD also just because it's a great spot.
Sure. I do want to circle back. Manfred, 50% off if you're looking to sign up at Awesemo.com. Here's the fun one. Manfred FC. One big word. That will get you 50% off. That will also include Fantasy Cruncher while you're checking out. So that's the one you're looking for if you want FC as well. Shout out to the man behind the glass, Jordan Klein, for tossing me that promo code while we're here. Orioles bats. Yeah, so the most expensive hitter on the Orioles on FanDuel is 2,600. That's always something to behold. At least Chris Davis isn't $400 or whatever he was at the start of last season. What was it? What were they pricing him at? $700? Something stupid?
Yeah,
it was like a price that wasn't real.
It was like they used to do when Clayton Kershaw was like at his peak, and they would price all the hitters against him at like $200.
Yeah. So I don't get the sense that Baltimore is going to be showing up a lot. Like Austin Hayes in the leadoff spot could be interesting. On 2,400 on FanDuel, I think it is. At 4,500 on DraftKings, it's fine. I see no reason to stack Baltimore here.
No, neither do I. I do think that if your roster construction is going like paying up at pitcher, Davis is someone you could use as a one-off. He is really cheap. He physically has power. It's just a matter of if he's capable of hitting a ball. For whatever it's worth, in spring training, he seemed like he was a major league hitter again. So we'll see. It's, maybe he's back on his Adderall and he's hoping not to get busted over 60 games. But you have all these biggest weaknesses, left-handed power. So taking a flyer on a cheap Chris Davis isn't the worst thing.
God, are we going to do that? 75 projected weighted runs created plus with a 38% strikeout rate and a 191 ISO after whatever he did last year.
But so, I mean, the thing is though, like, how do you, I understand how, but in terms of range of outcomes for a hitter that cheap, I think Davis's is pretty wide because obviously he's been unbelievably bad over the last few years. But before that, he was unbelievably good. Like the drop off was so precipitous and so just off of a cliff that I think there's at least some chance where he fixes something and doesn't get back to, the hitter that he was, but gets back to a guy that strikes out a lot and hits a lot of home runs.
Here's a question. If Chris Davis isn't making the amount of money that he's making, my first question was going to be like, is he in the league? But
No,
then I was like, oh, well,
too.
He's on the Orioles. He's probably in the exact same spot.
He's out of the league 2 years ago, at least.
You think?
Yeah, no question.
No, I mean, right now, if you could have wiped his contract off of the books, do you think he's starting for the Orioles today?
No chance. Absolutely not.
Okay. Strikes me as one of those things where it'd be like, we need a roster spot.
No. He wouldn't be playing for one. He would have retired. Like he'd
be in Korea.
He's considered walking away from his whatever obscene contract because he said it's literally embarrassing playing baseball.
Well, that's take the money, man. Don't retire. You won't care about that embarrassment when you're 45 years old and you have another 80 million in the bank from your nonsense. All right, let's get away from this game. What is next? Colorado and Texas. I thought we were going to... Well, Texas is still fine. Do we know anything about the roof today?
No, I'm assuming that it'll be open, but that's not really based on anything other than it's supposed to be in the mid-90s, which for Texas isn't really that crazy. And there's no fans to keep comfortable, so who really cares?
Rangers, 4.4 run implied total. Rockies, 4.2. Lance Lynn going for Texas. Herman Marquez going for Colorado. We'll start on Lance Lynn, but these guys are pretty similar in a weird way. 8,300 for Lynn on FanDuel, 89 on DK. Then Marquez is 82 and 87. Pretty similar pitchers in terms of like strikeout rate, walk rate. Do you have a preference between Lynn and Marquez here?
Not really. I view them really similarly to where if the lineups come out as expected, I'll have pretty marginal interest in them. But if we get a weird lineup from either team that is more right-handed heavy than anticipated, then I would start to have a lot of interest because both of these guys have pretty drastic splits in terms of their strikeout numbers against righties and lefties. Marquez last year struck out 28% of righties, 20% of lefties. Lynn was at 36% of righties, 21% of lefties. So looking at the projected lineups, you have 5 left-handed hitters in the top 5 for Texas. You have 4 in the top 6 for the Rockies and 7 total. It's not that I expect either pitcher to really get lit up. They're both good at they're both good against left-handed hitters in terms of run prevention, but the strikeout numbers really take a hit to where I don't want to pay what's a pretty healthy price tag for them on this slate if the opposing lineups are really stacked in terms of lefties.
Yeah, so right now I prefer Marquez by a pretty solid amount. The aggregate weighted runs created plus for the Rangers today, 88. It's opening day. That's not good. The bottom of that lineup, Elvis Andrus, Kiner Falefa, Danny Santana projects for a 74 weighted runs created plus. He's projected to hit third. This Rangers team is not very good. I would much rather be on Marquez and in the grand scheme of things on the Rockies. However, Story, Blackmon, Arenado, while I think these guys are fantastic, 3 guys in the 5Ks. Do you think people are going to be stacking Colorado today?
I don't think so. I mean, Lynn's a good pitcher. They only have a 4.3 implied run total. They're expensive. I mean, that's a more expensive middle of the order than the Red Sox.
Yeah. I don't think this game is going to gather all that much ownership. I think the pitchers are just good enough that it makes the hitters worse.
Yeah,
the prices seem to be a little high. The implied totals aren't that high. There's much better spots. I think this game sort of just flies under the radar.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough because both pitchers do have legitimate upside. Both offenses do have power. It's just that normally you'll see either the pitching's priced up a little bit, making the hitters on the other team cheaper, or vice versa. But here it's kind of just like, yeah, Marquez and Lin are priced to like their 75th percentile outcome, and so is every hitter.
Yeah. Running a crunch on this one will be really interesting. I wouldn't mind having really any part of this game, at least like the good parts of it. You know, I want to limit my Kiner Falefa exposure and all, but I can see getting to some pay up to be contrarian Rocky stacks. I don't get the sense that Lin or Marquez are going to pick up any sort of ownership, so I don't think there's going to be any lean that way. This might just be a game where you can grab some guys that just get fully overlooked, given that total.
Yeah, like I'm gonna be perfectly fine with whatever I get to from this game because I do think there's upside. It's just that with there being 22 offenses and 22 pitchers, there's gonna be a drop off in ownership before I get to the Rockies or the Rangers.
Yeah. Favorite bat in this game?
In terms of probability.
I think we're on the same bat here. Favorite bat in this game? I think we have the same answer.
Joey Gallo's 4,400.
That we do. That we do. Yeah, it's got to be Gallo. I couldn't go a different direction. On FanDuel, it might be Story, 3,700, but even Gallo at 3,500 is right there. Position helps a little bit. I don't have anything else.
Todd Frazier hadn't retired.
I didn't know he was on the Rangers. I could tell you that much.
Yeah, I definitely know that. But you could have told me. You could have told me he hadn't played in the last 2 years, and I would have believed you.
I just picture him playing for whatever
Sox
little
Reds.
league team. Whatever little league team he was on.
Oh, yeah. Tom's
River, New Jersey. Yeah. I've probably seen more Todd Frazier games when he was 12 years old than I have when he's been a grown adult. That is kind of ridiculous. Anyway, to Chicago we go once again. White Sox hosting the Minnesota Jakes. 4.5 run implied total for the White Sox, 4.4 for the Twins. Lucas Giolito going for the White Sox. Jose Berrios going for the Twins. It's a really nice matchup. Giolito, 9,500 on both sites. Berrios, 9,200 on FanDuel, 9,600 on DK. We're probably gonna have to talk about Giolito for a little bit here. Twins are obviously a loaded lineup. All 9 hitters in their lineup have a weighted runs created plus north of 100. So that's terrifying. But Luke Giolito was what we expected him to be last year, finally. Does that continue? Are you treating it like last year is the new norm? How do we manage Giolito moving forward?
I do think last year is the new norm. He did, like you said, he did what we expected him to do. The stuff is nasty. He's young. He's improving. So I do believe in Giolito. The problem that I have is, so I don't think he's overpriced in terms of ceiling. The price tag here clearly does factor in the matchup because I think based on talent, Giolito's more than a $9,500 pitcher. Last year, he had the second highest strikeout percentage on the slate behind Verlander. But it's just such a brutal matchup against the Twins, who, as you said, not only is every hitter on the team an above average hitter in terms of production, but it's also a really patient lineup, a lineup that walks a lot. And Giolito's biggest issue is still the elevated walk rate, which you're not, from a fantasy perspective, obviously you're not really that concerned about walks, but it's just really, really easy to see how his pitch count gets driven up really quickly by these Minnesota hitters, considering that he doesn't throw a ton of pitches in the zone. And this is a team that has, it looks like 5, or I guess depending on the lineup, anywhere from 3 or 4 guys with double-digit walk percentages, and then several others that are still above average. So I think it's a tough matchup in that regard for Giolito.
Not only that, but those walks could come back to hurt you when 7 of the guys in the projected lineup for the Twins have isolated power projected north of 200. You don't want free base runners when there's so much power on the opposite team, and the Twins are just dripping in power. They led the league in home runs last year by like a staggering amount, right?
Yeah.
Don't really see that changing all that much either. Kepler, Polanco, well, not even like Polanco at 173 is like a low ISO for this team, but Kepler at 232, Cruz and Donaldson in the 260s, Miguel Sano hitting 8th with a 274 ISO projected from Steamer. I kind of want to watch Giolito pitch. I don't really know if there's anything I want in this game. White Sox also a lot better than they seem, or at least I was thinking they would be on paper. I don't know what I get to in this game.
This game feels really similar to the Rangers game for me, where Giolito has a huge ceiling. The Twins have a really high ceiling. And the White Sox have a really high ceiling. They're not going to pop in optimizers. So there's going to be low ownership. You're going to kind of have to force your way to get to these guys. But I do think that it could be worth it in tournaments. I mean, you just mentioned how much power is in the Minnesota lineup. Anytime you can get that team at low ownership, it's going to be, especially in large field tournaments, it's going to be, worth a shot there. And then really, I think the same can be said for the White Sox. This is a team that in general, I expect to be stacking a ton this year. I got to them a lot last year because they're young. They have a lot of power. They have a lot of speed. And then now you add Yasmani Grandal and Edwin Encarnacion to this lineup. So I think there's a ton of upside here. It's not a great matchup against Berrios. Berrios is inferior to Giolito, I think, in terms of talent. About a 23% strikeout percentage last year, allowed a 186 expected ISO to lefties. So, taking a look at Moncada and Grandal in particular makes some sense. They're not cheap enough where I think they end up being optimal plays, but I do think that they're cheap enough that in tournaments, they'll look like good one-offs.
106 lefty park factor in Chicago. Definitely have my eye on someone like Kepler or Eddie Rosario from the Minnesota side. Moncada looking pretty tasty from the White Sox side. And obviously, Yasmani Grandal could be the best catching option in baseball. This is going to be a tricky game. You hate to target against Giolito and Berrios, but I think there's just too much power on the table. I'm with you. I don't expect much ownership coming in here at all. This would be a spot where if it is, if they're both being owned pretty low, I think it's a nice spot to take a chance at doubling your ownership and hoping that today is the day that sort of works out. But you could just as easily see a 2-1 gem out of both of these guys. Fun game. I wish I had more to add. Do you like the Twins side more or the White Sox side more? Because I think for me, it's Twins by quite a bit.
I think it's Twins because, especially on DraftKings, they're a little bit cheaper. I do think Giolito is the better pitcher, so it obviously concerns me a bit.
Yeah.
But there's just so much power for Minnesota.
Favorite bat in the game?
Factoring in position, probably Grandal. Excluding that, I think Moncada.
Okay. I'm on Kepler here. Kepler is 2,800. If he's really leading off for Minnesota in this spot, that he's going to be highly owned. Not only that, he's always highly owned for me. So keep that in mind. Anything else here?
Nope.
All righty. We're heading to St. Louis. Cardinals hosting the Pirates. 4.7 run implied total for the Cardinals. 3.4 for the Pirates. Jack Flaherty, who is definitely not John Flaherty, starting for the Cardinals today. Joe Musgrove, as we mentioned before, going for Pittsburgh. Flaherty 10-5 on FanDuel, 9K on DK. That is a very different set of circumstances for price. Musgrove 6,500 on FanDuel, 6,900 on DK. You going to Flaherty against a lackluster Pittsburgh Pirates team?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for Flaherty here. I'll be interested to see how ownership looks for him versus Aaron Nola, because I think these are two spots where they're basically the same price on DraftKings. The Pirates and Marlins have similar implied run totals, and they're both really, really good pitchers. You have Flaherty coming in with a 30% strikeout percentage last year, which is about 3 points higher than Aaron Nola was. The Pirates, decent, lineup, not a ton of strikeouts in it, has kind of always been the issue there. But also not a great lineup in terms of production, and Flaherty's just a really, really good pitcher. So I think that he's pretty clearly underpriced, and he's someone I'd feel really good about getting to. Like if I am playing some lineups with Flaherty plus Nola, I think that's going to be a ton of upside at pitcher and still letting me get to bats that I like.
What do you anticipate the difference in ownership being between Nola and Flaherty, separated by $100? You think they'll be close?
I think Nola will be higher owned, but I think it'll be close.
Okay. I have Nola by quite a bit. Definitely going to be something I dig into a little bit further as the day goes on. Not that I don't like Flaherty, because I do. He's probably my third favorite option. I just don't have a lot of respect for the Pirates bats. However, they don't strike out a lot. Kevin Newman, projected steamer strikeout rate, 13%. Adam Frazier, 14%. A lot of guys in the teens, 21, 22 is sort of average. Aggregate rate for the Pirates is just 18%. It might not be that kind of matchup for Jack Flaherty today.
Yeah, I think the strikeouts could be hard to come by, but I also just believe in Flaherty as a pitcher that can, manufacture it for himself. I'd feel a little bit better if there were an extra righty or two in this lineup. He struck out 25% of lefties last year compared to 35% of righties. But yeah, it's just he's such a good pitcher. And I think that in terms of talent, he's a 10K plus pitcher. So getting him at 9K in a spot where, like Giolito, we said, was priced a little bit low for his talent level, but he's facing a Minnesota team that doesn't strike out a ton and that has tons of power. In Flaherty's case, he's priced even lower. He's similar in terms of talent to Giolito, and he's facing a team that doesn't strike out a ton, but also outside of a couple of hitters, doesn't hit very well.
Yeah. Josh Bell with a 229 projected ISO. Next highest in the lineup, Jose Ozuna at 175. That is a massive drop off for power.
And he's a righty, so good luck.
Yeah, 93 park factor in St. Louis, not to mention. So not thinking that's going to happen anytime soon. From a stack perspective, this doesn't strike me as a spot that I want to be unless Musgrove becomes like a pay down chalky option. I don't really like either side of this game. I like the top of the Cardinals lineup, but that shouldn't be like surprising or anything. I don't anticipate having much ownership from hitters in this spot. Do you?
The Cardinals strike me as the team that'll come in like with a decently high top stack percentage, but a much higher ownership percentage because of how cheap they are. Mm-hmm. This entire lineup on DraftKings, with the exception of $4,800 Tommy Edman and $4,200 Paul Goldschmidt, is below 4K. So I think they're one of the teams that when you're just running optimals, if you're getting like Verlander plus Nola, you'll just get a bunch of like Cardinal stacks. And so I think they'll project well, but probably be a little bit overowned. I think it's a perfectly fine spot for them. It's this time of year, it's pretty much always hot and humid in St. Louis. So the ball carries a little bit more. Musgrove, not a great strikeout guy in general, and does give up home runs. Much lower strikeout numbers against lefties. So Matt Carpenter in particular would look pretty good. But I think that if there's a lot of ownership going to the Cardinals, I'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah, second, third, first, short catcher. First 5 spots in the order for the Cardinals. No one more expensive than $4,200. That is going to show up in every optimizer constantly. Keep that in mind when you're making your lineups. You might be artificially getting to the Cardinals. Do you have a favorite bat in this game?
Carpenter.
I was going to say, I think we're on the same one here. Matt Carpenter, 2,500 on FanDuel, 3,600 on DK, third base eligibility. Yeah, he would be the guy that I get to most here. I'm going to go ahead and assume that he is quite popular in cash. $3,600 third baseman. Yeah, you might be getting there, especially if you're going to Verlander. I don't have anything else for Cardinals Pirates. 4 games to go, but I've got another promo code for you guys. So if you're ready for it, you could use the promo code RESTART. One word. You can get your first month of Awesemo Plus. That's everything. Half off when you use that promo code RESTART. It's $45 for everything we have. NBA, which is back in a couple days. MLB, PGA, NASCAR, esports. I don't know what else is going on. KBO is done for us, I think. Any other sport? NFL will be back soon enough. You won't be able to cover it in that one, but you'll be able to keep that membership going. Now, this offer is good through August 3rd, so you've got some time on it. But if you want to use the promo code RESTART, that will give you our all sports Awesemo Plus package. Jordan, I'm looking at you right now. Is RESTART FC a promo code? Yes, perfect. That's what I like to see. Jordan's letting me know. RESTART FC, one big word. If you need to add Fantasy Cruncher to that package, you'll want to check out with the RESTART FC package. If you're not looking to use an optimizer, all you need to do is use the promo code RESTART. Again, you have until August 3rd for this promotion. But why wait? Get in there now. Get yourself a month. We've got plenty going on. 4 more games to go. We're actually moving pretty well. I don't think that... how many games are on this slate? 11, 12, 11? Yeah, I think 7 in an hour. I mean, that's pretty good. For
these slates always move well when it's a bunch of good pitchers.
And not to mention, like, It's just going to take a little bit longer because we are not fresh in talking about baseball. This is not what comes. We haven't said our thoughts on Yadi Molina for the 55th straight day. Like, you get a lot of information ingrained in your brain. That's not where I'm at right now. We have not talked about baseball in 10 months. I don't feel fresh. We're heading to Houston. This one should be fun. Over under hit batsman. We'll set it at a half. Does an Astro get hit today?
They're not going to use Gonzalez. He throws like 82 miles an hour.
Yeah, I don't need to. Yeah, you can take that 74 mile an hour change up to the middle of the spine. Astros 5.4 run implied total. Mariners 3.1. It's Justin Verlander against Marco Gonzalez. We need to just start here. 11-2 on FanDuel, 11-4 on DraftKings. How do you want to handle Justin Verlander, who I think is quite clearly the top pitching option of the day in terms of raw points?
Yeah, I think he's very clearly the top option. The Mariners aren't good. Verlander's really good. DraftKings did a good job in as far as the pricing on Verlander goes. I think we've kind of mentioned on several pitchers in that 9K range that we think they're a little bit underpriced. Yeah. That makes it so in tournaments, at least, it's there is some opportunity cost to getting to Verlander because you just have so many good pitchers that are $2,000 or $2,500 less expensive than him that give you that 25-point upside and let you get better bats. But also, again, with it being opening day, with there being 22 teams going, there's going to be some mispriced hitters. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult to get to Verlander. Ultimately, for me in tournaments, it'll come down to exactly what I can get to because as far as offenses go, because I don't have cheap pitchers that I'm in love with here. There's really nobody cheap that we've been on. So going that route is going to be tough. And if you're going Verlander plus a 9K guy, it is going to kind of force you on to specific teams. So if there's only a few teams that I like in that price range, like the Cardinals, then I'm perfectly fine in tournaments just going with two 9K guys or, a 9K guy and an 8K guy, hoping Verlander doesn't go for 35 and that my bats win it. But in cash games, I think going Verlander plus Nola or something like that is probably going to be the way to go.
What do we think that Verlander is going to come in for ownership on a slate like this? I'm honestly, you could tell me that it's oddly low. You can tell me that it's crazy high, and I
35 would believe. DraftKings.
Okay. Oh man,
totally just out of the blue, gas off.
Yeah, I hear you. It's just because of it being an opening day start where you have so many arms at the top. I just wonder if it breaks free. 11-4 is a big tag. The problem is he's in a just absolutely dream spot against the Mariners. It doesn't get much better here.
It really doesn't. I mean, you have a team that doesn't have good hitters. You have a left-handed heavy lineup, which for Verlander increases strikeout upside, even though he's right-handed. He struck out 39% of left-handed hitters last season. And that's over almost 1,900 pitches. So it's a pretty insane number. Going back to the start of 2018, he's at 38.9% against lefties. It's not a fluke. Like, he strikes these guys out at basically the same rate that Max Scherzer strikes out righties. So, and projected lineup for the Mariners has 6 lefties in it. So it's an absolute dream spot for Verlander.
God, this Mariners lineup is terrible. I don't know what Jose Marmolejos is, but I don't even think he has a salary right now. Marmo?
Yeah, it doesn't appear that he does.
No. Does Shed Long, or do I just have a gap in my sheet?
What'd you say? Oh, yeah, Shed Long's 3,900.
He's Shed Long Jr. now. Yeah, it's good. Don't want to confuse him with the original Shed Long. Anyway, let's talk about the Astros here against Marco Gonzalez, because I don't get the sense that you and I are going to be paying down for Marco Gonzalez against the Astros, but I think that we're going to at least like most of the Astros bats in general. Do we like them enough relative to their salary?
I think so, yeah. Especially if they do get less ownership than the Red Sox, which I would expect because Springer, Altuve, Bregman are all expensive. You don't have that Michael Chavis free square in this lineup like you do with the Red Sox. You don't have a Benintendi at 3,800 either. So, and I mean, just like Springer, Altuve, Bregman are all more expensive than JD Martinez is, for example. So I think they'll come in behind at least the Red Sox as, among the expensive stacks in terms of ownership. And while Gonzalez is a decent pitcher, clearly he's better than Tommy Milone, I do think that there's a lot of home run upside in this park for the Astros because Gonzalez is an off-speed pitcher, as we kind of joked about earlier, but Houston's park overall, not a great park for hitters, but it is a good park for home runs, particularly pulled home runs to righties. You have a pitcher in Gonzalez who throws a lot of off-speed stuff and will give up a lot of pulled fly balls to these power righties. So I think there's a little bit increased chance for home runs for Houston in this spot.
5.4 run implied total. Red Sox are at 5.9. Indians at 5.3. I mean, this feels like a spot on the surface that you want to take a lot of Astros. Springer, Altuve, Bregman, though, 5,600, 5K, 5,300. I just think it's going to be easier to get to the other teams, which makes me like Houston more.
Right.
It all comes down to ownership, though. Do you have a favorite Astros bat?
I mean, I guess Bregman. It's just hard. I mean, it's hard for me to separate Springer, Altuve, Bregman.
Agreed. Mike Gray in chat. Mariners have a lot of power. They do not.
They have Dan Vogelbach.
They do. And Kyle Seager. And that's it. Yeah. The aggregate ISO for the Astros is 202. It's 158 for the Mariners. The Mariners are probably one of the lowest ones on this slate, to be honest. Malik Smith, not hitting a lot of dingers. Just not happening. Any chance you're getting Mariners bats to... No. I didn't really have anywhere else to go. I mean, I guess, like... No, I have nothing. There's too many games for you to want to have, like, a guy against Verlander, no matter how many home runs he gives up.
Against right-handed hitters last year, Gonzalez, 39.6% fly ball percentage. Granted, he had a 12% infield fly ball percentage, 40.5% pull percentage.
Whew. Okay.
So, I mean, he does do a good job of, like, fly ball percentage can be misleading because of its pop-ups. Yeah. Obviously, there's no chance of it becoming a home run, and he does get a lot of pop-ups, but the opportunity at least will be there for the Houston guys to just put some balls in the Crawford boxes.
And not that this should be any surprise, the Mariners have a 3.1 run implied total, which is dead last on the day. That's what happens when you face Justin Verlander. I don't have anything else here. I'm very intrigued by the Astros ownership because I would like to get to them. I hope that they are under-owned, just given what we've seen. One last call. 620 of you goons are in here right now. That is a massive number for 11:09 a.m. Eastern time. First MLB strategy show for a real slate. I know Laffy and I were here yesterday, but 169 likes. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the number that we're on and I don't want it to change. However, let's push that bad boy over 200. 31 more people need to go out there and hit that thumbs up under the video. We would love for you to do it. Deeper Dive will be on again tonight at 5 p.m. Live before lock tonight at 6. Plenty of baseball content coming for you. We are back and we are better than ever. Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. Back and better than ever. Heading to San Diego now. The Padres hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks. 4.5 run implied total for the Padres. 4 for Arizona. Chris Paddock on the hill for San Diego. Madison Bumgarner on the hill for Arizona. Let's start with Paddock, 8,900 on FanDuel, 8,600 on DK. To me, he's just a guy on this slate. I'm not wildly interested. I just think he's there. And I kind of have the exact same feeling for Bumgarner, who is probably a little overpriced on FanDuel. These guys just exist, and I don't have a ton of interest in either of them. I'm not disinterested. They're not interesting.
I am disinterested in Bumgarner. If I get to some Paddock, that's fine. He's certainly one of the guys in that 8 to 9K range that has upside. He's another one that does have concerns about how deep he'll go into the game. Obviously, we saw him limited a bit last year, but we'll kind of have to see how that goes here. It's not a bad matchup for him. It's not a great matchup. I would rather get to Nola or Flaherty, but I do think Paddock is really good. Bumgarner on the other side, I have no interest in.
Yeah, I get it. It could be crazy. I don't know. Leaving San Francisco and going to Arizona might have some negative consequences to his pitching ability.
I really wanted him to go somewhere like park neutral or hitter friendly because I think it is just DFS based, but I passionately want Madison Bumgarner to fail because the industry just likes him so much, thinks he's so much better than he is, I think. So I was really hoping he'd land in the American League in a hitter's park.
I just like him because his hair sticks out the back of his hat the same way mine does now. No, I know what you're saying there. 4.81 FIP projected from Steamer this year. That's not good.
And I mean, for years now, we've had his numbers inside and outside of San Francisco just being drastically different.
Yeah.
And now, this game obviously is in San Diego, so he's not even benefiting from the humidor in Chase Field. Last year in particular, against right-handed hitters outside of San Francisco, he allowed a 365 WOBA. He struck out 20.9% of hitters, allowed 1.67 home runs per nine. And you have plenty of right-handed power in this lineup with Tatis, Myers, Machado, and Pham in the top four most likely. So I don't have interest in Bumgarner. I do have interest in some Padres mini stacks or one-offs.
Okay. I also have quite a bit of interest in the Padres. I think relative to salary, they might be my second favorite stack of the day. Now, value for a stack is going to be very dependent on the rest of the way your lineup looks, but 4,800 for Tatis as a shortstop. I'm in. Will Myers, 3,400. Like, he's not very good. He strikes out a ton, but there's still pop there. He's like right-handed Jay Bruce. I don't know. 3,400 though is nice. Machado, 4K. I'm going to have a lot of Padres as filler. Do you think that they're popular because of their price tags?
So I think the Cardinals will keep some of the ownership down. That's obviously just my assumption right now. But I was going to say that if the Cardinals are like the popular team that people use to get whatever pitching they want and get good one-offs because they're so cheap, I think the Padres are a really good pivot. Their implied run total is slightly lower, but they still have tons of right-handed power. They have a lot of upside. I mean, you have, since the start of 2018 against left-handed pitching, Tatis only 83 plate appearances, but a 300 ISO. Machado is at 292. Tommy Pham only at 153, which is surprising. He's someone you would expect to do better, but still a 154 WRC plus for him. Will Myers at 246. Ty France, not many at bats, but he has some pop as well. So I think that if they do come in lower owned than the Cardinals, I think that there is upside for them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping to see low ownership here. This will be the value stack that I'm looking for. Yeah, Ty France, 2K on FanDuel. You're getting him at the minimum. Tatis and Machado, the only guys 3K or higher, and I'm happy to pay those sorts of rates for a third baseman and a shortstop. I really like the idea of grabbing some Padres bats against Bumgarner. Are you trying to grab any Diamondbacks bats against Paddock?
I don't think so. He's a pitcher that I have a lot of respect for, and the Diamondbacks pricing doesn't really stand out. They're pretty much all between like 4K and 4,500 on DraftKings, and there's a ton of teams like that are facing pitchers worse than Chris Paddock.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that I'm going to be getting to a lot of Diamondbacks. I'm not really mad about it either. I don't know. It's just a weird spot. Why is that extra thing there? What am I doing wrong here? There we go. I wasn't getting any, the arm for Chris Paddock wasn't getting loaded to my sheet. So I was getting a lot of like weird split stuff, but now I'm back and better than ever for my own spreadsheet, which will start being shared soon enough. Don't worry, people. It's coming. Starling Marte is the only guy that I'm looking at. And even then, I don't get the sense that I'm going to be on Arizona at all. I don't even know. Like, everybody's just in like this weird shade of beige in the highlighted categories for me. No bright green at all other than Marte. Let's get out of this game. Let's head to the Dodgers. Wonder which starter is going to get scratched today. Dodgers and Giants, 5.6 run implied total for the Dodgers, 3.5 for the Giants. Ross Stripling going for LA. Jeff Samardzija going for the Giants. I feel like Jeff Samardzija is 65 years old.
How old is he? Like 33?
Probably. It wouldn't shock me. Let's find out. Samardzija. He is 35. He's literally born 2 weeks before me. So,
God, you're old.
Yeah, I guess. I wish I were Jeff Samardzija. Let's talk about Stripling. 6,600 on FanDuel, 7,900 on DK. I assume, the 7,900 price on DK, like, it's great that you get to face the Giants and all. That's too high for me. I don't think that he's going to be able to pitch deep enough into the game to matter. in a weird way, I'm interested in 6,600 on FanDuel, but there's just way too many good arms at the top. So I can't imagine having pitching here.
I think we're in the same boat. I think Stripling's a good pitcher. I think that he'll do well in whatever innings he pitches. I just don't have enough confidence in him being able to go deep into this game, deep enough to, it's not even necessarily deep enough to justify his salary, like you said, especially on FanDuel. It's deep enough to justify the opportunity cost of not taking all of these other aces that are on this slate. So you're just running like a really, really thin line trying to get Ross Stripling to be one of the highest scoring pitchers.
For sure. Well, we're not going to be able to avoid Dodgers bats, right? Second highest implied total. Looked pretty good yesterday. Muncy, Betts, Bellinger, Jock Peterson. This whole lineup is loaded. 120 weighted runs created plus in the aggregate, a 230 aggregated ISO. I see no reason to not be rostering a bunch of Dodgers here. Jeff Samar just stinks.
Yeah, right there with you. They're another team that I expect to just lose a little bit of ownership because of the Red Sox, among other teams. But, similarly priced, stacked to the Red Sox, you also naturally are going to have a little bit less ownership, assuming this lineup isn't out at 7 o'clock, or at least not long before 7 o'clock. That always drives it down a little bit. So, once again, you're just getting a team that, they're lower probability than the Red Sox because they're facing a pitcher much better than Tommy Milone, but the upside is exactly the same. And if they're going to come in at ownership discount, then I want to be on the Dodgers.
I hear you. Yeah, I don't. Bellinger, probably the guy that I like the most, but if Muncy leads off with dual eligibility at 4,500, that is going to be real difficult to ignore. God, this Dodgers team is just so good. So good. All right. Dodgers, Red Sox, Indians, Astros. Who's the most popular team of those four?
Red Sox.
Yeah, I agree. Any chance you're getting to any Giants bats?
I really see no reason to.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I do either. Lefty power is that gets played up in LA. So we're talking about Yastrzemski, who is Alex Dickerson, who is meh, and Joe McCarthy, who doesn't have power. I don't really need to add Brandon Crawford or Rob Brantley to the list here. So I'm going to avoid the Giants, much like I did yesterday, and I'm going to have some Dodgers. Paying close attention to the ownership between Indians, Red Sox, Astros, and Dodgers. I don't have any real good takes between those four teams, so I'll probably just be on the one that's owned the least. That's usually how baseball works too. One more game to go. Give me your favorite bat here. Dodgers or Giants? Well, give me your favorite Dodgers bat.
Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, hard not to. So good. And we close it out. One last game. Oakland A's hosting the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Frankie Montas going for the A's. Andrew Heaney going for the Angels. I accidentally added Andrew Heaney to my sheet twice earlier today. And when I looked at it, I was like, how in the world is Andrew Heaney $16,000 on DraftKings? I was like, who do they play? The Orioles? Anyway, Montas, 7,600 on FanDuel, 8,800 on DK. That'll be pretty easy to get away from, I would imagine. Heaney, 6,700 on FanDuel, 8K on DK. I have some, it's a risky spot. I've got some interest in $6,700 Andrew Heaney on FanDuel, but just talk about it in general. Any Montas or Heaney for you?
I'll save Montas because I have a lot to say there.
Okay.
Heaney, I'm with you. I'm not going to feel good if I get to some of him, but just from a salary to upside perspective, there's certainly a case to be made, especially at 6,700. He struck out 29.3% of righties last year. He also allowed a 197 expected ISO, and he's facing a right-handed heavy lineup with tons of power. It is only supposed to be in the low to mid 50s in Oakland, it looks like. So that should help suppress home runs. It's obviously a spot where it can go south in a hurry, but you're just not going to find the same kind of strikeout upside that Heaney has at $6,700. So in tournaments, it's not it's not a bad play in tournaments. Montas, I'm actually interested in. So
really?
Yeah. On one hand, it's a tough matchup. The Angels have a good offense. They don't strike out a lot. On the other hand, I already thought Montas was really good. Last year he struck out 29% of lefties, 23% of righties, throws mid 90s. Has a good splitter that I wish he would throw a little bit more. But there's also a good article in The Athletic talking about how he was able to stay in shape despite the pandemic and how he's been throwing the major league hitters like the entire break. But also he started working in one of, whatever fitness center, but he got the article says that his extension now is up to 7 feet. And Eno Saris put that into context that Montas last year was in the bottom 10% in extension on his pitches. 7 pitchers last year had 7-foot extension, which basically puts him in the same category as like Tyler Glass now. And the article said that he went from normally sitting around 95 to 96 to sitting around 101. So if you have this guy who already had really good stuff and he really is throwing 100 miles an hour now instead of 95, I like the idea of being there in tournaments before everyone else is.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm assuming you like him a lot more on FanDuel than at 7,600?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I posted the link in the Awesemo Slack chat also.
Perfect. If you're not a premium sub, you won't be able to see it. And that's your mistake. Plenty of promo codes if you listen back to this video. We dropped them.
And so also to just kind of clean up what I was saying, like, I'm not saying that Montas is like the number one player or anything like that. It's just that I already thought he was a really good pitcher and that at 8,800 he deserved some consideration just based on talent. And now there is some evidence that his talent is much higher than we thought.
I think we're probably on the same page here. He will not be owned.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I like that idea in GPPs. Based on that info, you definitely want to get there early because 8,800. I mean, being $800 more than Heaney was even surprising to me. That could be a really nice place to get a little different if you're trying to go to like a chalkier stack for the day.
Eno Saris said that Montas's extension last year, according to StatCast, was 5.7 inches on average. So if he's at 7 feet, or sorry, it's 5.7 feet. So if he's at 7 feet now, that's a pretty big difference. His trainer actually posted like workout logs from his last 2 pitches off the bullpen before he left, and he was at 6.9 and 7.8 feet.
When you were saying inches, I had a really good 5.7 to 7 inch extension joke.
Yeah.
Just ready for you. I didn't like it when you fixed it.
102.8 and 101.8 miles per hour on those last 2 pitches.
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm anxious to see it, and it makes me a little bit more curious about Montas on FanDuel. But again, Heaney's 6,700 on FanDuel. It's a fantastic park to throw in. It's a scary park for sure. There's an infinite amount of right-handed power for the A's, but there's also a lot of strikeouts here too. I think Andrew Heaney, if you're trying to fully punt for a $6,700 guy on FanDuel, is worth a look. It probably fails more often than it succeeds, but he will not be owned. And I'm intrigued by that at least a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the FanDuel pricing now, but I can't imagine that there's much in that price range that offers the same just raw strikeout upside.
Heaney or Montas?
Heaney.
Now, Duffy, Stripling, Musgrove, Samardzija.
Yeah, he's in a different class in terms of strikeout upside than every pitcher until you get the Frankie Montas.
Yeah, he should if you made him 7,700, I'm still slightly interested in Heaney on FanDuel just for GPP purposes. He's just wildly underpriced. Easy game for that one. Do you want to get to bats here? I think the Oakland Bats, immediately after touting Heaney, I think the Oakland Bats are mildly underpriced given their power. 217
I agree completely.
Aggregate ISO here. It's a terrible park for power, but do you think they get owned because of their price tags?
I don't think so.
Do you think that's an optimizer play?
Yeah, I don't think so. The Cardinals being cheap, the Padres are cheap. Both teams have slightly higher implied run totals. You're going to have everyone using Michael Chavis for value as well. I don't think they'll be popular. You'll also get the ownership driven down a little bit by possibly not having the lineup. But I'm with you. I mean, we don't really expect ownership going to Heaney. I don't expect a ton of ownership going to Oakland. And I think the range of outcomes is pretty wide because, as I had mentioned before, Heaney has the 29% strikeout rate against righties, which is really good. Also has allowed a 196 ISO against righties, which not very good. So if his stuff is really on, he's capable of striking out anyone. But if he's not on top of his game, which obviously is very probable, you have a really cheap Chapman, you have a really cheap Semien, Laureano, Chris Davis. I mean, there's a lot of power here for discounted price tags.
Yeah, I think
the weather's probably my biggest issue here. Like it's mid-July, and so many of these games are going to be played in 90 degrees with humidity. Playing in the 50s or 60s or whatever it's going to be in Oakland isn't that appealing.
Yeah, not totally ideal. 63 at first pitch is estimated right now. I can't imagine Oakland gets... So they either become an easily slotted in optimizer play because of having a shortstop, a third baseman, and a first baseman all in their first 4 hitters. It might just become very easy. If it doesn't, I think that we see them show up on the top stacks tool with like a 2-to-1 top stack to ownership ratio. And that's when it becomes really interesting. Angels bats, do we just get Trout and Ohtani and then we keep moving?
Yeah, pretty much, especially Ohtani at 4,500.
Yeah. $3K for Ohtani on FanDuel, way more in play.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just a talent play. Obviously I just gave my whole spiel on why I already thought Montas was good, and I think he's probably even better now. But you're getting, a pretty average price tag on a guy in Shohei Ohtani who has like a 240 ISO against right-handed pitching.
That'll do it, man. 11 up, 11 down. Felt good to get back into it, but hit me with this first. Favorite stacks, favorite pitchers.
I already forget.
And this will be for DK.
Yeah, so Verlander, Nola, Flaherty, obviously the probably chalk pitching, but I think it's good chalk. I'll throw Montas in there as the tournament pivot that maybe is better than we anticipate. As far as stacks go for value, I like the Padres. Obviously I like the Red Sox, Cleveland, Houston, Dodgers.
Okay. For FanDuel, for me, Verlander, Nola, Marquez, and Heaney will be the 4 guys that I look at most. From a stack perspective, Red Sox, Twins, Padres for value. There we go. Deeper Dive will be back today, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Adam and Laffy, 6 p.m. tonight, live before lock. I believe Chris Spags and Alex Awesemo Baker. So you'll get 2 straight hours of content tonight. We'll have plenty of written content out throughout the day, cheat sheets, etc. Manfred is a promo code. Restart is a promo code. Attach FC to either one of those. So go with Manfred FC or Restart FC. That'll get you everything. 227 likes as you're leaving. Hit that thumbs up. It helps a ton. Thank you to the 670 people that came and joined us for this one. The week is over. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll be back on Monday for strategy shows, but we're not going anywhere for the weekend. We're out.